In today's lesson, we're going to talk about activity 2.1.3, putting it together. So let's get started here. You can see that I have OnShape open. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to start it, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it Unit 2, which I've already started here. Once you get that, you're going to create another folder inside of that, and we're going to call it activity 2.1.3. And this is where we're going to put our parts and all our drawings. For me, I'm going to open it up, and you can see that I already had one started, but we're going to start another one. So this time I'm going to go to new document, and we'll call it activity 2.1.3. And I'm going to call this one sample because I already have another one started. And I'll hit OK. Now, of course, we're going to turn off our right plane and our top plane. We're going to leave our origin and our front plane on. Today's lesson, we're going to make 5 different parts all in the same file. That's going to be critical for when we start putting them together. It's going to make it a lot easier for us. So let's go to new sketch. And I'm going to start on my front plane. And I'm going to turn it toward me so I can see it a little bit better. I'm going to make a simple rectangle. I'm going to start right here at the origin. Open up a rectangle. And this rectangle is going to be 1 inch tall and 6 inches wide. I'm going to say finish. I'm going to go into isometric view so we can see it a little bit. We're going to go to extrude. I'm going to grab my little part. Of course, I always want to go backwards. And we're going to go back 2 inches. Okay. Now I'm going to turn off my front plane because I don't need it anymore. And actually, I'm going to turn off my origin because I also don't need that anymore. Now, on the top of this part, I'm going to put a little hole. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to put a new sketch right on the top of that. And of course, I'm going to look right at the top. And we'll zoom out a little bit there so we can see what we're doing. I'm just going to make a circle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to move my cursor down until I find that midpoint. And I'm going to slide along that midpoint. I know you're not going to be able to see it, but they're actually going to be little tiny dots showing me that I'm going right through the middle. So I'm going to open that up. And then I'm going to dimension. I'm going to put a couple dimensions on there. Outside dimension, I'm going to have that to be 0.5. I want it to be from this edge, 1 inch over. And now you should be able to see if I go from here to the bottom, it should automatically be 1 inch because I went to the midpoint of that line. I'm going to finish that sketch. I'll go into isometric view so you can see what's going on. There we go. I'm going to actually extrude that hole. Now I'm going to remove it, and my depth is only going to be 0.5. Looks pretty good. I like that. What we're going to now do is go down here in the bottom left-hand corner. Now you can see that I have part 1 done. So I'm going to do a couple things down here. First of all, I'm going to right click. I'm going to get edit appearance, and I want to make this part red. Next thing is I'm going to want to change the name of this part. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to rename it. And I'm going to call it red base. Okay, and I'll go back into my isometric view so you can see what's going on. And there's my red base. I'm going to do a new sketch. I'm going to put it right on the front here. And I'm going to look at my front view. Now I'm going to zoom out. I do not want to build my next part on top of this or anywhere near this. So my next part is actually going to be a little cube. So we're just going to make a little square. Doesn't matter where. I'm going to dimension that. And I want that to be 2 by 2. There we go. 2 inches. And that dimension, we'll want that one to be 2. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a hole. I'm going to hover right here, and I can see that where the midpoint is. I'm going to slide down here. And now I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to move my cursor here. I'm not clicking yet. And I'm just touching that. Now, if I move right to the middle of this part, I'm going to be able to see 2 hidden or 2 dotted lines. That's going to give me the midpoint of both those. So I'm going to put a circle in there. I'm going to dimension that circle. And I want that to be 1 inch diameter. Now I'm going to put 2 dimensions to show you that it's going to be 1 inch from the center of this hole to this edge is going to be 1 inch. And I'm going to show you that it's going to be 1 inch from here over here. And that's because I went over and I just moved my cursor on top of those 2 midpoints, right? So I like that. I'm going to finish that sketch. I'm going to go back into my isometric view. I'm going to extrude. Now I'm only going to extrude this outside edge. I don't want to extrude the whole part. I'm going to make it go backwards. And I want it to go back 2 inches. I like that. I'm going to do the same thing as I did the red part. I'm going to go down here where it says part 2. I'm going to right click. I'm going to rename it. And I'm going to call this blue cube. Right. I'm also going to right click, edit my appearance, and we're going to make that blue. Okay. So now you can see that I have 2 parts. I'm going to make another part. So I'm going to do this new sketch. I'll just click the front of my big red base again. And I'm going to zoom out. So it gives me room. I'm going to make a little triangle, a little right angle triangle. I'm just going to use a bunch of lines this time. Click, and then back here, I'm going to put a little dimension in on the base. I want that to be 2 inches, and I want my height to be 3. I like that. I'm going to finish my sketch. I will go over and I'll do an isometric view. I'm going to extrude that triangle. Again, I'm going to make it go backwards. I want it to go back 2 inches. I like that. Looking good. Down here, I'm going to rename it again. Right click, rename. And we're going to call this the green prism. And then I'll right click again, edit appearance. And let's make that a nice green color. Let's make it a little darker green. There we go. So I got a green prism. Okay. Got 2 more parts we're going to make. So I'm going to zoom back out, sketch, right on that front face. All I'm going to do is make a little circle. We'll go dimension. I want this one. We're going to make this one yellow. So I want this one to be 1 inch in diameter. I'm going to go to my isometric view. We'll finish our sketch. We'll go to extrude. We'll click on our little circle. We want this to go back. I want this to go back 4 inches. I'm going to right click down on part 4. I'm going to rename it. And we will call this the yellow cylinder. We'll right click on that, edit appearance. And of course, we want this yellow. All right, we got 1 more part. I'm going to do my front view again. New sketch right on the front there. I'm going to make another circle. Right there, we got to dimension it. This one's going to be a little bit smaller, 0.5. And we'll isometric view. We'll finish that sketch. We'll select extrude. We'll select our little circle there. Of course, we want it to go backwards, so we're going to make it go back. And we want this to go back 1.5 inches. Again, we'll go down to our bottom corner, right click, rename. And we're going to call this the purple peg. And then we'll click, right click on it, add appearance. And of course, we want this purple. And now you can see that I have all my parts in one location. All right, so this is the first part of activity 2.1.3. You will have to create all 5 of these parts.